This program is underwritten in part by
Janelle Encarnacion Art. Carlos Furniture, a family-owned business, has been providing furniture, appliances, and household accessories since 1997. The flagship store on St. Croix and another on St. Thomas are both open for in-store shopping and are able to ship to various locations in the Caribbean.
and viewers like you. The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJX, its board, staff, or underwriters.
Welcome to the Bookcase. I'm your host, Shawna Richards, a sometime writer and a long-time reader. I invite you to join me as we explore the bookcase and celebrate Virgin Islands authors and talent. Each week on the Bookcase, we'll introduce you to a local author and learn more about them and their work. A storyteller lives in each of us, and I'm so excited to give our homegrown storytellers a chance to tell their story. Tonight's selection from the Bookcase is Passion and Purpose, and I'm so excited to welcome its co-author, Johanna Samuel. Johanna, welcome to the Bookcase.
Thank you. So nice to be here.
So let me give you a minute to introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us about Johanna, the author, the co-author of Passion and Purpose.
Yes, I am originally from St. Croix, Virgin Islands, and my parents are from the island of Antigua. And today, I've come a long way. I like to say that I'm a being that was given the gift of life to be here and to answer the highest calling on my life. I am a wife and a mother and an entrepreneur, and now an author.
So what came first, being the author or being the entrepreneur?
Oh, entrepreneur, for sure. I'm the owner of Add a Touch Accessory.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I had this boutique in St. Croix, Virgin Islands for about 13 years, but now I have pivoted online.
When did you first start writing? When did you first say, I'm a writer and I have something to say?
You know what? I have always been a journaler for the last few years. Well, I think over 20 years.
Okay.
And that came from being inspired by Oprah Winfrey to pick up and just write, pick up a book and to just write and to be in gratitude. And I would find myself just writing down my feelings. I love inspirational quotes. So it kind of came from that. I won't say that I'm an avid writer, but that was my foundation.
So you like inspirational quotes. So is passion and purpose something that the reader will find inspiration in?
Definitely so. My co-visionary, Vanessa Farrell, we really wanted to be very intentional with what the topic of the book would be. And for us as women, of course, our geared audience is women. And we wanted to inspire women. So what was their passion? What is their purpose? And they can draw from that.
What led you to write specifically for women? Where did you see the gap and say, I want us to fill this gap in literature?
As a woman, we go through so many things. There's just so many beautiful layers to us. And it's not always beautiful. One thing that I used to say, or would still say, is that that is not going to go out of style is inspiring each other. There's always something to share. There's always something that can spark and enlighten something in another woman to rise and to be at her best.
Do you feel that sometimes women aren't encouraged or encouraging, and that's why it was important to create stories or find stories of women who have overcome?
Women are not always encouraging, and that's why it's important to tap another sister, to say something encouraging to her, something positive to her. One of the things that I truly believe is that we are responsible for the spaces that we're in and what we say and how we bring someone else in through conversation. So it was important to be that vessel, be one of those vessels, as all the women in the book, to share and to enlighten and to touch the hearts of another woman, because it's always something that we're going to hear that we're just going to say, I understand that. I'm going through that.
Have you personally met all of the authors featured in Passion and Purpose?
I am so blessed. And as you ask that question, I'm just getting so emotional because at least 11 of the women I met at my boutique 15 years ago.
And how many authors, how many women's stories are featured in Passion and Purpose?
21.
21
women, including myself and my co-visionary, Vanessa Farrell. So it's an honor, it's special to know that there are women that are in the book that simply walked into my boutique to shop for beautiful fashion accessories. And along the way, through the years, we established relationships, we established friendship. They encouraged me as much as I encouraged them. So for them to be in the book,
that's special.
It's special.
One thing that I found, a common theme in so many of these women's stories was resiliency. It was people either finding or creating their tribe of persons who would nurture them and pour into them. And I found that really interesting, that there was a common theme where people said, I'm going to overcome.
Yes.
And there were so many, you never know someone's story until they tell it, right? And did you find that to be true when putting this together?
Oh, yes, definitely. Again, just being a vessel for one another, encouraging one another. Sometimes we feel alone. I have felt that way, but I'm grateful that I've had other women to support me, to encourage me, to be that listener, and to pour into me.
When we talk about, would you describe this as a self-help book?
It's everything. It's inspiration, and yes, a self-help book. Because again, we hear or we read a particular story and we think about something that we have experienced or is going through at the time. And we learn from each other. I truly believe in that.
Was there anyone or any that when you approached them and said, please tell your story to help uplift other women, that they said no?
We got a few no's, and so forth. And it could have come from whatever reasons, but I know one for sure is being scared to, or not feeling that they're worthy to share their story. We actually had one author, and I would love to call her name, and she talks about this all the time, so I know she will be fine with it, and that is Miss Giovanni Peters, okay? And when we both spoke, one of the things that she shared is, do you think my story matters? I mean, what would I say? And that is where that, as an inspirational woman, as I will call myself, for me to say, yes, sis, your story matters just as much as mine or anyone else. And you are so perfect to be in this book based on what you just said, because now you can share and inspire from that standpoint.
Is Passion and Purpose your first book?
No, it's not. I was asked in 2021 to be a part of another anthology, and that was called Confident Woman Rise. Yeah. And
so did Confident Women Rise plant the seed for Passion and Purpose?
not necessarily plant the seed for passion and purpose, because again, Miss Vanessa Farrell and I, my co-visionary, I mean, we took our time before even bringing this to the forefront. But for me, being a part of the first anthology and just being able to write and to share that story. And my chapter was called Pivoting Intentionally. And that's exactly what I was going through at the time. So from that anthology, it was just very heartfelt to share with women in the Virgin Islands, because we did do our research. I stand to be corrected, but we did the research to find out if there have ever been an anthology here collectively with women in the Virgin Islands. So, you know, this was something that, let's do this and bring other women along.
So you've written what could be self-help or inspirational. What do you read?
What am I reading right now?
What do you read, period? Is it along the same lines of self-help and
along the
inspiration?
same line. That you know, I'm not like all over and so forth. I love being inspired, and that's me, and that is the light that I bring to the world. So I love inspirational books, just to help another woman, to inspire, to encourage, to lift up, all that good stuff.
So your chapter in this book,
Yes.
Passion and Purpose, is called Intentional Purpose Leads to Peace. How did you arrive at that title? Because it says a lot, and I just want us to dive into the meaning in the title.
You know what? I was actually struggling with my title. Here I was along with Vanessa, encouraging the other authors, and you know, we were guided by the publisher Talisha Barry in LA, and it took me a while. So with that being said, that chapter title came off of the first anthology that I was a part of, and that chapter, Pivoting Intentionally. When you read that chapter, you could tell a little bit of the heartbreak and me choosing to be obedient, answer my calling, keep going, not giving up, no matter what, right? So in this particular book, in the Passion and Purpose, that chapter pretty much came from me that I got the lesson. I understood who I was, where I am, and the things that I was being called to do.
And so when you say being called to do, being called by God and hearing.
Yeah. I talk a lot about hearing God's private whispers for myself. That is very, very important.
And is that what informs the intentionality, that your movements are guided and not just scattered and all over the place?
No, it's not scattered. I am associated in a few groups with some other women and so forth, and I have been in settings whereas things are like strategically written out. You know how to get more money, how to do certain things, how to get the audience and so forth.
I mean, you can go on social media on any given day and find 5 things, 5 steps, 5 lists,
and
5
that.
that.
Yes, and that is well and good, and the way how it's used. But for me personally, it comes from God. What would you want me to do? You know, I like to say that I was minding my own business, with my accessories, my fashion, because that's what I wanted to do. But then God tapped me, and He knew that coming from being raped as a child, not thinking that I was pretty enough growing up, even into my adulthood, being shy to speak in front of people, always that individual from elementary school to college, sitting in the back of the classroom. If you would tell me this is what I would be doing, I would never think that my life would be like this right now. So when God downloaded to me that this is what I have for you outside of the fashion, and I want you to share and inspire and teach those lessons, it came at a different level, and it was up to me to be obedient. And I believe in that. And that is one of the reasons why intentional purpose leads to peace. Some of us struggle with what we know, that we intended to do and trying to do something else that we're being influenced to do other than just being silent and just adhering for yourself, because the answers are there.
And I found that in so many of the stories of the women in your book, that they heard the call, whether it was a challenge, whether it was just some goal that they saw for themselves or visioned for themselves, and worked through just so many challenges. And when you look at so many of the women featured in this book, women in our community who are like you, entrepreneurs, who are in the legal field, the medical field, you know, just such a cross range of women in our community.
It really was.
And they've had to, and when you look at them, you say, wow, they are at this pinnacle. But you never know their story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as you're speaking, I'm thinking about attorney Lydia Molinar. And it's so ironic that I'm wearing pearls because that's how we met.
Oh, really?
She was just an individual. She was all about her pearls. And that's how we befriended one another. And she would always encourage me. And every time she would be leaving the store, you know, she would be like, chin up. And I would be behind the register, chin up, and so forth. And I remember that day calling, you know, because I'm that individual that I called Vanessa and we sought out women before we actually put the ads out. And I individually called individuals, and she was one of them. She was so quiet on the phone, and she just listened to me. And I shared with her that, you know, people see you, you know, you're this attorney, and, you know, I like to tell her that you walk in your heels like a stallion. I was messing with her on that. But people don't know, because we were able to share some things every so often. And she took a look.
And it's true. People don't know your story.
Yeah, her story is very powerful in there, from what she experienced to where she is now. And even she has, you know, expressed to me many times that after individuals read her chapter, they would call her and say, "You've been through that? So this is why, you know, you have."
I think
this
what I saw so much in I think every chapter in Passion and Purpose were women who were not believed. They were not supported in their vision, and being told no so many times. And I think sometimes it's hard to get past the no, because you've heard it so much.
Yes.
And to say, this is not going to be my ending point.
Yes.
And I thought that was just, it was so powerful and inspiring to see women who said, that's not where it ends for me.
Yes. And with that being said, to take it further, women, what I've learned from many of these women like myself, we invested in ourselves somewhere along the line.
And I made a note of that in reading the book, but especially when you mention it in your chapter, because I think culturally we don't learn how to invest in ourselves. And I don't know, and maybe it's just, you know, common of the Black woman period, wherever that Black woman is, who are taught to, we pour into everyone and everything else. But when we pour into ourselves, we're selfish, we're this, we're that, all kinds of other words that, you know, I won't say on TV. And just not supported in investing in ourselves. So why was that important for you? When did you learn that? And why was it important to put in your chapter for other women to see that and say, that's important and I need to do that?
Well, definitely for me, because I know the opposite of investing and pouring into everyone else and everybody else's business, and did minimum for mine's. And even for my growth.
Was that a hard lesson for you when you weren't investing in yourself?
It cost me a lot. You know, it cost me my peace, you know, my finances, you know, I would give here and so forth. But it has gotten to a point in my life, and that's why I share in my chapter how important it is to invest in you. So you too can build up, And you know the saying, we need to put on our
Your life
oxygen
jacket,
mask on first or what have you. And I would look at statements like that through the years, in the years. Like, man, why would they say that? But it's true. It's so true, Even now, I'll give you an example of investing in myself. 2 years ago, I was contacted by a gentleman, Mr. Sean Fair, via email and some ads and so forth. And this is, he has seen me and so forth, and he wanted to include me into his leadership tour or whatnot. But of course, it takes audition to come alongside and be with that entity and so forth.
Okay.
But anyway, I did go, and in 2021, so I flew from here, not knowing anyone, to Detroit. And here it is, being one of the only Caribbean women, which I always kind of find that. If someone would say, well, their parents is from here or there or whatnot, but the majority of the time, from my experience, I'm one of the only Caribbean women. So here it is, leaving from St. Croix and, going into a space where there are amazing speakers and business people doing all kind of, different things and are so great. And I have to...
But also knowing that you belong there.
Yes.
Right.
And showing up for myself and investing into myself. And because of doing that, I've met some amazing, amazing individuals. And
so would you say that writing has opened doors for you?
Well, before going to Detroit, I did the Confident Woman Rise and so forth. It was one of the vehicles. Because I was actually doing little speakings from before here on Island and so forth, and also sharing my inspiration on social media and so forth. That is what opened the doors.
Well, I would love for you to read one of your favorite passages. I know there's so much to choose from.
Yeah, there's so much, but let's see. In my last anthology, I ended that chapter by encouraging women to give themselves a chance and to answer their calling, respect their calling. And I ended the very last sentence by saying, and don't forget to bring other women along. I am so big on that. It's a part of me. If it's anything you're going to ever hear me say, seeing another woman on the sideline, I'm going to come out of that lane just to go stop by and to say, I see you.
Is that the key message of passion and purpose? Would you say that every story is about not only lifting yourself, but in lifting other people and bringing them along?
Of course. Yeah. That's just a part of me, because I know what it's like. I did not always have that. And I think that's what it is. I have not always had that. I have it now. I have some amazing women who, bring me along, encourage me, and so forth. So what I was given, by the grace of God, is now being given back to me.
So when you sit down to write, you say that you journal, but when you sat down to write your chapter in Passion and Purpose, are you the pen and pad? Are you sit down in front of the laptop? What does your writing style look like?
I'm all over the place. I'm one of those. That may have a scrap of paper there and I think about something and I will just jot it down before I forget. My iPad is always pretty much, next to me. And then it just gets to a point that I just craft everything together.
How did you find your publisher? What was that process like?
I met Talisha Barry from the first anthology that I was invited to. And Talisha Barry became one of the 20 women in the anthology and so forth. So we built a relationship from there. And that book, of course, went to #1 bestseller. And I remember with her just being so knowledgeable, so kind, listening to her on the calls and so forth. I remember one day after the book was done and said and so forth, I called her number. And I was like, I couldn't believe she answered the phone. I said, I can't believe you answered the phone and not calling to bother you. I don't know why I thought of her like that. You know, it wasn't putting her on a pedestal, but you know, people are busy and you know, they're doing so many amazing things and she's out in LA and so forth. And she said, oh, no problem. Call anytime and so forth. I said, right off the bat, I told her, I have so many questions because I would like to write my own book, and I'm in the process, as you know, of doing my own book. So it was even before the Passion and Purpose.
Okay.
And I said to her, I'm probably gonna be like Kobe Bryant, how Kobe Bryant was with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan used to say that Kobe would call him sometime in the middle of the night to ask a question. And when she heard
So
that,
would
she
you
just
say
laughed.
that she's a mentor?
Oh, yeah.
And were you also,
Yeah.
and did you also mentor the other women in
Yes.
your book in writing their stories?
Yes, she said anytime, you can call anytime. So we developed, you know, a business relationship and a gradual friendship and so forth. So with the women for this anthology, yes, we all were guided. I still need to be guided, so we all were guided, and we had some classes of how to go about choosing the chapter, how to go about writing, how to go about brainstorming, you know, setting time to write, you know, writing, going back, and we all had to.
And that's what I wanted to ask. How do you you've got a lot going on, Miss Shawna. So how do you balance all of the things in your life? You're an entrepreneur, you're a speaker, you're a wife, you're a mom. How do you balance that with being creative and writing?
Well, an empty nester now, as you said, that with the kids. So I'm trying to tell them, you know, everybody, please try and hold your own. You know, I'm 49, and it is my intention to give God all of me. And to just say yes and keep being obedient and keep going and so forth. And my primary business is fashion. You know, it is my desire to continue building At a Touch. But God kind of slowed me down a little bit on that to get the writing out of me and the speaking out of me, knowing that everything is all going to come together. So I just balance the best way that I can. I have an assistant that assists me. I'm grateful for that. And I'm going to continue investing in myself so I can get better and to have the team that I need.
And part of that is carving out time every day. Do you write every day? Are you
Oh,
intentional in writing?
No, they don't come every day and so forth. Sometimes I got to, let's be honest, you know, force myself to and so forth, and to not let it get on the back burner.
So before we close, I want you to tell our audience what's next. What can we expect next from Miss Shawna Samuel?
Oh, wow. Just continuing to show up for myself. Be good to myself. Because if I'm good to me, I can be good to others. And as we were speaking earlier, I'm very big on being 49 years old now. And I think it's beautiful. I'm on my way to 50.
And that is beautiful.
And that definitely is beautiful, yes.
It's been a pleasure to learn more about our local talent, Ms. Shawna Samuel, and the book she co-authored, Passion and Purpose. For more information on this book or any of the books featured on this program, visit our website at www.wtjx.org. We appreciate your support of our local authors, and we'll see you next week when we take another book from the Bookcase.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJX, its board, staff, or underwriters. This program was underwritten in part by
Janelle Encarnacion Art.
and viewed